2018 City of Midland single-family homes sold 673 last year. Of those, 25% sold in 3 days or less. Mama told me to come. These stats are according to the Midland Board of Realtors. Of the 673 homes sold last year in the city of Midland, 37% of those sold in 7 days or less. And 51% of the 673 homes sold last year in the city of Midland sold in 15 days or less. That's just incredible if you think about it. Half of our inventory last year sold in 2 weeks or less. We had a great year in Midland. Yet at the same time, 14% of the listed houses didn't sell in their first listing. So there's some parity there. But for the most part, we had a great year. We're getting these stats from the Modern Realty 2018 Real Estate Market Report. These are stats for the city of Midland only. And a little disclaimer to all the fact checkers out there, because you know they're out there. Did the best we could with the stats from the city of Midland board, okay? So that's what we're working off of here. Last year, 2018, we sold, like I said, 673 homes. That's down from 2017, where we sold 760 homes. But the average sale price in Midland this past year was $169,135, which represents a 7.5% increase year over year. So we had a phenomenal increase of our average sale price in the city of Midland. Days on market were lower on average, so the number of days that a house took to accept an offer was down from 65 down to 43. Which is just incredible if you think about it. The average days on market's a month and a half last year for our homes that sold. And on average, those homes sold for a 2% discount from the original listing price, which is also a great indicator of a strong real estate market overall. A couple stats that I found really interesting that we want to dig into quickly here are the highest and best-selling price range in the city of Midland last year was between 101 and 105,000. We sold 191 houses in that price range. Last year, on average, they took only 32 days to sell, and they sold on average for only a 1.56% discount from list price. So that price range did very well, especially if you compare it to the higher price ranges in Midland. You know, kind of the higher you go, the more difficult and more challenging it becomes. We only sold last year 25 homes between 301,000 and 350,000, and on average, those homes took 63 days to sell. And they sold at a 1.78% average discount from list price. Although I found it a little bit interesting, the 301 to 305 price range actually appreciated at a higher rate than the 100 to 150 range for some reason. I don't know. Now, as you go higher, you go into the entire Midland County last year, 2018, we sold 54 homes above 400,000 in Midland County. And on average, those took 136 days on market to sell. Now, the current active inventory that we have left, there's 20, currently as of today, there are 20 houses for sale right now in Midland County, 400,000 or higher, and those average 176 days on market. So it's definitely a more challenging market as you get higher. I think part of that's because there's more inventory, there's fewer buyers in that price range. And as we're going to get into here, some other dynamics that are affecting that demographic range as well. Obviously, the best place to buy or sell a house right now in Midland is where we're discussing that 150 range. It seems to be the hottest submarket. To get a little bit more valuable insight on these market shifts, these market trends, and where I think we're going and where we think we're going next year, I want to bring in somebody with much more experience than I have. 14 years in this market. He's an associate broker here at Modern Realty, managing broker. Last year completed over 24 transactions valued over $3.5 million, while at the same time running a child care center with his wife of 16 years at home and mentoring 45 agents at our office. Somehow he finds time to meet me at the gym in the morning. Sometimes he skips leg day, but other than that, he's always there for me. My buddy, Tim Sodini. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Logan.
Okay, what is your take on the performance of Midland's real estate market in 2018? How do you feel about how we did?
2018 has definitely won a few items for me. One, it was an exciting year. Two, it was up and down as far as depending on price range. And the inventory for 2018 was another exceptional piece, meaning it seemed like, depending on the price range, the inventory shortage was definitely driving the market. We sold less homes this year than 2017, but I think that's because of the inventory. I think the other item is it was a uphill race for many buyers. I would think the only negative to this 2018 market would be the frustration for a buyer looking for a particular home in a price range. To not be able to find something that somebody's looking for, or to find a home that they wanted to get themselves into, and then be in a competing market where we're doing multiple offer situations almost on a daily basis.
In your entire career, have you ever seen so many multiple offer scenarios play out in a year?
I've never seen multiple offer scenarios become the norm. I mean, they were operating significantly almost in any home. Of course, the price range really affected that, but the idea was that if you were in that 100 to 150, certainly you had to be at the house making immediate decisions, where before you could look at 5 to 6 homes and have a few days to take your time and purchase a house.
Yeah, I felt that a lot last year too. It was exciting. Sometimes it was, exciting in a good way. Sometimes it was disappointing.
Sure.
But it was definitely unlike any real estate market I've ever seen in my years here in Midland. So overall, I think that was good.
Right.
And I think that it's healthy for the city. And I think that there's a little bit of that going on, a lot of that going on all across the country. So this is a little bit of a reflection of that as well.
Right. Seems to be a trend that's happening nationally along as locally as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree with that completely.
All real estate is local. What factors influence the real estate market in Midland?
Midland, of course, has a very large company, a chemical company in town. Everybody knows Dow.
Yeah.
Dow definitely influences the market. They have a heartbeat. When Dow makes changes, the Midland market gets affected. I will say the 100 to 150 price range, though, I would call that your normal everyday buyer. That price range stays active no matter what. That is a buyer that seems to exist all the time. So not surprised at the activity level that price range had.
I wrote here in the notes, I said, so goes Dow, as goes Midland.
Right.
But I think as we're about to discuss here in a minute with the Dow-DuPont merger and the other things that are happening on that level, there is going to be more diversification here now. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think so. I think with different entities, different corporations, different industries a little bit, there's more diversification. There's less reliance on one entity, one company.
Correct.
To drive our stability in our market. And, as long as I've been here, I felt comfortable and confident with Dow being here and Dow being the stable economic driving force behind our market. But, when there's a big change like that, there's uncertainty. So I think that the diversification is a good thing.
Yeah, the uncertainty from that change is significant for Midland.
Yes.
Midland, like you said, has become very comfortable, and I know from the experience that I've been in that Dow certainly does drive, and they do influence like the 350 to 600 to the 700 range. And with uncertainty this past year and a half, that price range has gone a little bit slower, and the days on market have increased, and the value for the price that you would pay for a home right now at this point is on the buyer side. You're buying more home for your value in that price range. You're running into less multiple offer situations, and there's a lot more out there that you can look at compared to a market where 350 and up there might be 8 to 12 homes to choose from. There's been as high as 62 in the past year of the market that you've been able to search through. So there's definitely an influence to that.
Wow. Yeah. I have a little note here from Midland Tomorrow, 2016 major employers in Midland County. So this is a little dated now, but obviously number one is Dow Chemical with 6,000 plus employees. Number two is Mid-Michigan Health with 2,000. And, the Midland Public Schools, number three.
Sure.
Interesting to see here. Chemical Bank, number 4. We know that's might going to change a little bit. City of Midland, number 5. Northwood, number 6. Greater Midland, number 7. Three Rivers, number 8. Meyer, number 9. And Midland County, number 10. So that's, Dow is a big portion of this thing. I think there's about 500 corporate people working in that new headquarters. That's a percentage of that overall workforce. But yeah, Dow's a big
huge
player.
Factor.
Here's an announcement from back in the day. Dow Chemical Company first announced its plans to merge with DuPont December 11th, 2015. In a statement issued at the time, Dow's chairman and CEO Andrew Liveris said, "This transaction is a game changer for our industry and reflects the culmination of a vision we've had for more than a decade to bring together these two powerful innovation and material science leaders, yada, yada, yada." We had Maureen Donker discussing this in the State of the City address this year back in March. Let's take a look at that.
I think that you would agree that as a city, we're transitioning from one version of ourselves to another. The Dow-DuPont merger is complete, it's on our minds, and I think if we're being honest, we feel a little uncertain about what's going to happen next year and beyond as we welcome these new employers and see the future Dow being formed.
You know, as she says, the merger is complete. There is still, even to this day, some uncertainty with all the change. But one thing I found that was really interesting was, if you remember back then when all this merger talk came out, everybody thought the world was ending.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
we were dead, we
Very
were done.
scary for Midland.
Yeah, everybody, there was doomsday scenarios left and right. I thought this was a pretty interesting stat I ran for us here. Since that announcement, the Midland real estate market is up 14%. So it's one of those things where, you know, I'm definitely a believe half of what you see and none of what you hear kind of guy.
Sure.
And I just don't ever listen to anybody. You know, it's really hard. You know, that's just kind of how we are. But
Yeah.
I always try to think about things that I can see and that I can understand, and not just what people say. There's so much rumors. There's so many rumors that come out of
Right.
all this stuff. Even as recently as today, I was in an appointment today with a guy. We were discussing this because I knew we were coming on to talk.
Yeah.
And, you know, oh, this is about to happen and this is about to happen. And maybe that's true, but
Right.
you really just can't live your life thinking about those kind of things that could hypothetically happen. You just got to see what actually does happen and adjust from there.
I think it's easier for us to be a little more objective because we're looking at it from the impact that we see directly through housing. Obviously, if you're a family and you work for Dow, the impact could be significant. It can be very personal, very strong. The change, of course, nobody knows where it's going. We always hear worst case scenario, and sometimes it's not as bad as everything that they say. For the families that are directly connected, I mean, you certainly care about them and feel for them. At the
Definitely.
same point, like you said, 14% the market's up, but is that as an economy as a whole? I mean, is Midland booming? The hospital, major factor in Midland. I remember when the heart unit went in, the amount of surgeons that came to town, the amount of productivity that increased, the renovations, the companies in town doing the building. Again, a lot of influences in Midland, of course, Dow being the greatest.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Anybody that is affected negatively by a merger, that's awful.
Right.
That's not something that should be celebrated, of course. But I did note, because I read the reports and I saw what they were saying about job cutoffs and layoffs and synergies and things that they talk about like that. But I had several clients in the last year and a half who have sold their homes because they either took a package or they retired or some were laid off. But
Sure.
a lot of them were on the way out anyway. They were getting towards retirement age anyway. So it wasn't like a major shock to them. And most of my clients, for the vast majority that were affected by this or have been these have been positive moves for them.
Sure.
So, of course, there's stories on both sides. But
Right.
and then the other thing that I made a note of here was some have and may lose their jobs. Some have been replaced, and some have retired. Some of those who have been replaced or retired have stayed, and some have left.
Right.
But not everybody that was affected or is affected by this transition has left. So the real estate market hasn't seen a major glut of inventory
Right.
that you might expect with a major layoff or a potential for layoffs and whatnot and synergies and all that. But it's the numbers in our real estate market just don't reflect that.
Right.
We have an improving market. We have a low inventory situation. We have strong demand. Like you said, there are sub markets that are better than others and
Correct.
and whatnot. But for the most part, we're doing okay.
Yeah.
We still have a lot of those first time buyers in those 150 range. They're doing well. They're always going to be there. I think we're doing all right.
The other thing too, I know that I had a handful of clients that left or had transferred or had moved to like Philadelphia in those cases for Dow and done transfers. And at the same time, when you heard the rumors and the statements came out, growing up in Midland my whole life, been in the Midland area, I mean, you hear that. And personally, I not panicked, but, I had concern. But then same thing, you watch the market steadily increase, the multiple offers increase, the transactions increase. The inventory shortage was just a little bit stunning to know we were going to go through that at that point with this type of market and everything that was going on.
Yeah. I mean, it was a wild year.
Yeah.
obviously our brokerage had a major. We felt the volume increase for sure. And
Absolutely.
Went from I think 40 million sold in 17 to over 84 and a half or so last year. Just a major boom for us as well.
Significant increase.
I think a lot of that was due to the market. Some of that was our growth and things that we were doing, but a lot of it was just the market doing well as well. So
Sure.
a little bit of both. In a way, okay, so this is from September 20th, 2018. This is from the Midland Daily News. It's a quote from Jim Fitterling. In terms of Dow's future in Midland, in the Great Lakes Bay region, Fitterling assured Dow post-spin will continue its commitment to the area. Quote, in a way, it will be business as usual. You will recognize the new Dow because we want to and we must carry our long heritage forward. It's who we are. Dow will be dedicated to growth, but also disciplined and deliberate. So that's the official message from just a few months ago,
Sure.
from the new CEO, and that's encouraging.
Right. I know that will help. I mean, again, it's a report. It's the CEO statement and the ideas that will help calm fears and help quiet things down, and hopefully it does. Hopefully it plays out just like they say, business as usual, and the Dow just keeps moving forward.
But again, that's one of those things where
Right. You don't know.
you wait and
Gotta
see.
wait and see what happens.
Yeah, you
Correct.
can't just take a word like that. Okay, I got a question for you. A lot of people ask me. So I broke down quarter by quarter how many homes or how many days on market you average and how many homes are sold by quarter. A lot of people in this time of year, they ask, early first quarter of the year, it's still snowing out, it's a little bit colder. They ask questions like, hey, should I wait till the spring? Should I wait till the winter? When's the best time to sell a house? So I broke down the numbers by quarter. And it's pretty interesting to see the percentage of homes sold by quarter. So I'm gonna hit you here.
Sure.
2018, Q1, 18% of the homes closed in Q1. Q2, 32%. Q3, 31%. Q4, 19%. So you had a little bit of a bell curve there. Obviously, the Q2, the April, May, June, July, August, September. Those are the months when the weather's the best. A lot of people are moving around. You got
Right.
summer break in between, so you're going to get more of those homes sold then. But it doesn't fall off like a Traverse City or
Correct.
one of those markets that's really, really seasonal. We have a lot more stability in our market.
And I think that stems from the types of businesses that we have here in town.
Yeah.
Like you said, we're not a seasonal destination.
Well, you know what? Dow has relocations in and out of town all year long, all the time.
Correct.
And I think that's one of the reasons why that happens. I made a note too that, remember the Q1 closings, the sales that close escrow in quarter one, some of those are pending in the fourth quarter of the previous year.
Sure.
What that means is they're accepting offers and they're starting that due diligence and financing process in November, December, and they're closing in January, February. So that you have to kind of look at these stats. You got to get a little deeper into them to really understand what they're saying. But
Sure.
for the most part, I don't think that these numbers indicate to me that you shouldn't list your house in the winter or you shouldn't list it in the spring or whatnot. I think that it's been my experience when I get asked this question all the time is I say, hey, you should list your house when you're ready to sell it, when
Right.
it's ready to be sold. You can't buy a stock that way. You don't know the perfect day to buy a stock. There's going to be a buyer in the market at any time.
No, and I agree with you. I would agree with the fact that I do see a slow. Of course, Thanksgiving and Christmas, families do take the time off. A lot of people don't like to have people trekking through the house and they got Christmas trees with gifts under them. But it, as a whole, as you see, it's just a percentage. It's like a small portion of what is changing in the market itself. I tell clients all the time, real estate's timing. It's my job to present your home and get it in front of the right person at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that be in December or January, I've had some Januaries busier than most months of the year. So really, timing is the essential to real estate. And the other piece is, yes, in the winter there might be less percentages, less sales, but there's also less inventory. There's less competition. So
I just wrote that down. I said there's more inventory in the spring, there's more buyers that come out in the spring. I think
Correct.
that we see that, but there's also more inventory. More people list their homes in the spring. In the wintertime, there are fewer buyers trekking around the snow, like you said. But
Right.
the ones
if
that are
they
looking
are,
at houses
they're ready
today,
to buy.
they're ready to buy a house.
house. Absolutely.
And the thing about that is they have fewer options, okay? Because
Right.
there are fewer homes on the market when people aren't listing them in the winter months sometimes. So the buyers that are out looking that are motivated to buy a house, they have fewer choices. So if you're a seller thinking about listing in the winter or not, your house will be competing with fewer other homes at that time.
Correct.
So it kind of levels itself out. That's pretty much the point that we're making here. All right, real quick, last question. just want to get your insight. Where do you see the market, the Midland real estate market headed this year? What do you think?
Well, I'm cautiously optimistic. At this point, it seems to be trending in the same direction. The open house activity, the amount of buyer activity, the amount of people starting showings, and the amount of people out looking already seem to have increased significantly. And the inventory is just not catching up yet. And if we keep on this trend, it will have another year with the repeat of the amount of homes sold, the amount of days on market being significantly low, the amount of multiple offer situations. It could trend again to be a great seller's market. Of course, on the hindsight, if I sell my home and I need to go find one, depending on where you're looking and what you're looking for, it might be a tad harder to find a house to move into that you're looking for.
Yeah, you're always buying and selling in the same market, aren't you?
Correct. So it puts a lot of pressure on sellers, especially when they're going to sell and they know if the house goes quick. Obviously you prep all your sellers at this point to say, if we're very competitive, if we price right, if we get everything going in the right direction, then the shortage is there. The house is going to sell.
Yeah, and a lot of this is going to depend on how these new corporations and these existing companies that we have,
correct,
the decisions they make and the directions they go. Let's go back to the mayor and hear what she has to say about it real quick.
We want to be the city of choice. So we need to show them that Midland is a great community and a great place and business friendly and a wonderful place to operate. It becomes incumbent upon all of us, to welcome these businesses and work to make them want to reinvest here.
I agree with her. We really need to support these companies. We need to become the city of choice for these companies and make sure that we can do everything that we can do as a city and as a community to support those businesses so that they stay here and that they invest here so that our town continues to thrive. So I think that's good to go here. We took these stats from the 2018 Modern Realty Midland Real Estate Market Report. If you would like a copy of that report, you can have one. You don't need to trade me your email address. You can just go to my Facebook page, Logan Ricchetti, Realtor, and you can download a copy. I won't track you down, I promise. Just like the page, man. Give me a like. Smash the like button like my little nephew Jack would say. That's it. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.
Thank you.